Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard Day the Cruz, who is off tonight, and Chief Engineer, Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Good evening.
It is Monday, January 27th, 2025. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/thegamingdiscourse, /gaming-discourse, patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. You can support us for $247, $10. Get your name in the video credits, early access to our videos, access to our Discord server, and more. Last week, I posted a video looking back on some of my favorite games journalism from 2024. I looked back on it, discussed my thoughts on it. Some I kind of just wanted to share and not really break down a whole lot. Others I kind of wanted to break down more. There was a lot of good stuff last year, and I think I'm going to do that again next year because just there's always, a ton of good stuff out there that I love to discuss. But anyway, so go check that out. Right now I'm working on a review of Eternal Strands by Yellow Brick Games. It releases tomorrow. I can't share... I believe it's still under embargo, so I can't share like how I feel about it or whatever like that. But I have had the review for a while now. The review code was... This is the earliest I've ever received a review code. I've had the review code for maybe 2-ish weeks, but I haven't been able to get to it. I didn't know how early I was gonna get the review code, so I had other things lined up. I'm not used to getting review codes weeks in advance. Usually it's like the day before or something like that. But anyway, so I got this review code a couple weeks in advance, and I started playing it. And this past like week and a half, I've really dug into it. This past like week, probably, I've put my like a big chunk of hours into it. I think I'm up to like 20 hours right now. But that will be the next thing I'm working on, is this Eternal Strands review. Try and make it really comprehensive, really thorough. It releases tomorrow, so I'm not gonna have a launch day review, which is totally fine. But anyway, so that's what I'm working on right now. And yeah, we've got news. I have a couple games I would like to talk about. Connor, you're doing your annual Mass Effect run through again.
I don't know if it's annual, but yes.
And how's that going?
Pretty good. I'm on Mass Effect 2. I'm getting towards the end of it. I didn't realize how fast Mass Effect 2 goes, because it's you just pick up the companions and then it's like go time. Always forgot how short that was.
I do need to play the games again. It's just the ending is just, it scarred me for life.
It's Tyler. The rest of Mass Effect 3 is a great game.
I know that doesn't get rid of what's in my head though.
What happens is, you get hit by Harbinger's laser, and then that's where the game ends. It's on a cliffhanger. You don't know what actually happens.
I prefer getting killed by Marauder shields, actually. I prefer that he comes around the corner and just blat blat. Yeah, and Shepard,
the true hero.
Yeah, it goes down like a Mortal Kombat fight or something like that. Okay, do you have any epiphanies on Mass Effect 2 thus far? Or what kind of character are you playing? Do you always play the same character, or do you swap it up every time?
No. So like my original run was with a soldier, just because I like in the fantasy / sci-fi with like super high tech and like space magic. I'm just a dude with a gun, or I'm just a dude with a sword.
Right.
I like that juxtaposition. My most recent completed playthrough was with an adept, and I'm currently going through with a vanguard.
Okay. I have completely forgotten. Never really used any of the I always played as a soldier. I never really did the different classes, but man, maybe I should. Yeah, maybe I should one day.
You should, yes.
Pick up that legendary edition.
Pick up the legendary edition.
And
just play through it.
Yeah, because I do miss those games a lot. Mass Effect, I think partially my love for space and sci-fi came from Mass Effect 1 when you go to the galaxy map and the dun 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 dun, that music plays. That I remember that just hit me in the face when I was probably early teens then. And I thought that Just that
It came out
explore that
2007.
okay, but that like exploratory
Yeah.
music going through, and I think the first Mass Effect. I think we've had this conversation before, but the first Mass Effect tried to be more of a almost like Starfield, because you could land on planets and like explore them.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was in 2 and 3. When you land on a planet, it's like a level. It's not like a big
Yeah.
open area that you can explore and you may not find anything there. Correct? I don't remember really
Mhm.
well.
No, yeah. In Mass Effect 1, there were planets you could land on, and it was just a large open map that you would traverse around and find resources or little self-contained missions. But in 2, there are fewer planets that you can land on, and they're all mission related. You'll find a mission at the planet while you're scanning it.
Hmm.
And then 3, it's similar to that.
Yeah, and it's a little more dense. Yeah,
Yeah.
a little more dense. Those, and I need to play the KOTORs. I also need to play Icewind Dale. I got a bunch of RPGs I just gotta knock out before I die. Sometime in the next 10 years, I gotta get these guys done. Okay. Anything
Well, just
else?
remember that the first Mass Effect is more heavily towards like CRPG, where you're like doing like
Hell yeah.
armor loadouts and like weapon
Hell yeah.
loadouts, and then 2 goes more into action RPG,
Action
and then
RPG.
3 is just action with a little bit of RPG.
Yeah, and that I always regretted, because man, I miss. There's not a ton of sci-fi CRPGs.
No,
There's the medieval fantasy ones have come back, but there's not a ton of sci-fi
oh,
ones, and that makes
there's
me.
always Rogue Trader.
There is, there is, but Warhammer's like a mix of both. Warhammer's like a cop out. It's like, what do we want to be today? We're fighting with swords. We're the fantasy game today, and it's like, what
Well,
do we
okay,
want to
but
be
like,
today?
how is that different than Star
Well,
Wars? Space
uh,
magic and lightsabers.
well, but in Star Wars you can, they don't intermingle as much because you can.
I mean, if you've played any Star Wars game recently, it's just lightsabers and blasters.
I don't know, Connor. How about you shut your mouth? How's that sound?
How about you admit I'm right?
No, no, that's a good point. And I do remember that in KOTOR you use swords, which is weird.
Mhm.
Uh,
Vibra swords. Yep.
yeah, because it's like getting a lightsaber is like a big deal, and it's
Yeah.
only if you like turn into a Jedi or a Sith or whatever. Okay. Anything else you'd like to discuss that you've been playing?
No,
No?
not really.
All right, so I have a few thoughts on Dragon Age Veilguard that I would like to share,
Go ahead.
and then move on to something a little bit different. So I'm getting, I think, close to the ending in Dragon Age Veilguard. I'm knocking out companion quests. I learned that so there's different factions in Dragon Age Veilguard. There's the Mornwatch, which are like necromancers. There's the Grey Wardens. There's all these different factions that are connected to your companions, and they have opinions of you. So if you do quests for them and you buy gear from them and stuff like that, that ups your reputation with them. And if your reputation is high enough, you get discounts, access to more things and whatnot. Apparently that affects the ending somehow. And at first I was just going to skip all of the like open world quests and do main quests and companion quests and be fine. But then I read, you make sure you have high, make sure the different people like you before the ending. So I was like, Jesus. So I knew that I was going to have to go through the open world and complete all the all the side quests that are tied to the different factions. But so far it's been pretty good. I messed with the difficulty a little bit more, and I found a really good sweet spot that I like now. I turned the enemy health down back to normal. I had it up on the highest setting, but I still have their damage high. So enemies, so it's like we're both doing a lot of damage to each other. Enemies do a lot of damage to me relative to their health bars. I do a lot of damage to them. And then when I fight bosses that have big health bars, instead of them being these marathon boss fights that take forever because they just have huge health bars, it actually feels like I have to use my abilities and I have to mix and match the different abilities that like detonate and cause them to freeze and stuff like that. So the combat gets a little deeper there. I just had to mess with the settings to get there, and I think that's a pretty bad fault of the game. that I don't know. I spent so long in the game until I reached that equilibrium. Because yeah, especially in an RPG, if the combat is not great, then that foundation and your character build and everything kind of goes with it. It doesn't have anything to stand on. So that's kind of what I experienced initially with Veilguard. But I have reached a point where things have gotten better. The writing continues to be not great. It's not horrible. It's not terrible. But yeah, not super great. Character companion stories end in really weird ways, in ways that I don't think makes total sense. I don't want to spoil anything, but there are companions that come from morally gray, like Lucian. He is an Antivan Crow. They're assassins. So, he's a hitman. He's a paid assassin. He kind of comes from like a morally gray faction, and his companion quest ends in a really weird way. And I think that's kind of a trouble with if you're going to do an RPG and you're going to have this big world with all these different people, you have to respect the places that they come from, right? So if you were to do a Star Trek RPG and you were to have a Klingon companion, and this Klingon companion is in Starfleet like Worf, you would have to respect who Worf is as a Klingon while sort of reconciling that with his position in Starfleet. That's what makes his character so intriguing in the show. But in Veilguard, they try to make everything nice, and like everybody's kind of heroic, which I'm not a huge fan of. I understand that you don't want evil companions. Like, if you don't want to make evil companions, that's fine. There are RPGs out there with evil companions, your Baldur's Gates. I don't know if the previous Dragon Ages had evil companions. I don't think so.
No, I think
text our our resident Dragon Age expert real quick.
I think the closest thing to like a quote unquote evil companion you can get is Sten in Dragon Age Origins, but he's evil because he's in jail for alleged child murder, which he didn't actually do, so he's wrongfully imprisoned.
Okay, so he's a little angry about that, which we could all understand.
Yeah. He's very stoic about the whole thing. It's weird. He's a weird character.
But anyway, so it has trouble with that, and I think that's what people were upset about, is that it has these characters that come from it's not that we morally disagree with them, it's that they come from like different places, right? Much like a Klingon comes from a different culture, a different way of thinking about things, a different way of reacting to and like internalizing violence and what it means to be violent and revenge and stuff like that. Klingons just look at it differently. And so when you make an RPG with a huge world, you kind of have to take that into consideration. And I don't think Veilguard did that. The other thing that Veilguard does that bothers me a little bit is, and this is again with it's either Lucian or Lucius, I forget. Lucanus. There, it's both of them. I said Lucian earlier. It's Lucanus. There, okay. So the Antivan Crows have Spanish accents, and it seems like I forget the name of the town that they go to, but anyway, I think it's like Madrid. It's like modeled off of Madrid, that kind of thing. So you're like Mediterranean. Like, I don't think it's specifically Madrid, but I think it's like Mediterranean, like that, that area in Europe, But anyway, but the Antivan Crows clearly have like Castilian Spanish accents, but they say Spanish words. Like Lucanus will say mierda, right, which is shit. But I hate that, because in my mind I'm thinking, wait, does that mean that Spanish exists in Dragon Age? If it does, it's totally fine. Like, Spanish can exist, like all kinds of languages can exist in other worlds. It's just weird to hear him say it and see it nowhere else. I feel like what's going on is it's that cliche that I dislike, where if a character speaks any other language, they will say words like in that language as much as possible, to be like cool or whatever. That I think is a bit of a cliche. But that's one thing that I dislike because you don't hear it anywhere else. So it's like, does Spanish exist in Dragon Age? Does it not?
Yeah.
If it exists, that's fine. Just put it out there. But if it doesn't exist, it's weird that he uses that those words. Now, in like The Witcher, Toussaint and the Witcher is clearly like French inspired, right? The words are French and everything. But I don't remember anybody speaking French. It's just words that are like that sound French or have French sounding syllables or whatever. So that's how they now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are French words, in which case I would criticize it for the same thing. But I don't remember The Witcher being like that. So yeah, just a weird.
Going
hiccup.
further into that with Dragon Age, you also have Orlais, which is heavily French inspired.
Yeah,
and they don't say any French words; they just speak with almost ridiculous French accents.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah, either the language exists, which again, totally fine, just establish that it exists.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't, but then it's weird that characters are using, like, it's one of those things that, I don't know, I'm talking about it way too much.
And I think it comes from a point of it'll be funny if they do that here, like from a writing perspective, which I think if you want them to be bilingual or multilingual and it to be believable, then it's not something that they just code switch to. It's stuff they fall back on.
Yeah, sure. That makes more sense.
Or if they forget the word for something, they say it in their native tongue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it would be cool if you could mix in, if you could do fantasy settings with like different actual languages and stuff like that. That'd be neat, because I think that'd make it a little deeper. Because oftentimes, you have these fantasy settings where everybody speaks the same language or whatever.
Well, let me tell you about this little fantasy setting called Middle Earth.
There you go. I was going to say.
Where it was just a fantasy setting because Tolkien really liked making up languages.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so I'm going to finish it. I am enjoying it. But yeah, it's definitely, I think it might be, this sounds mean. I think it might be the worst Dragon Age. I don't think it's a bad game, and I've never played Dragon Age 2, so I'm not somebody that can make that judgment. But I know people out there will like die on the hill of Dragon Age 2 is good, actually. Totally fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But Veilguard, I don't know. Veilguard just some of the mistakes it makes and some of the things it gets wrong, it really stings, and it's really bad in some areas. And I don't know if Dragon Age 2 was like that or not, but
I would argue that personally, Inquisition is the worst Dragon Age game. Because
really?
I'm cursed. I'm cursed and I can't play it. My saves always corrupt at the same point, regardless of what platform I'm on.
Really? You've tried this on console?
Yes, I've tried it on our PS5.
And
at the exact same point,
No way.
they always corrupt. I don't know what it is. I'm cursed. I can't play the game.
What you need to do is play the game up until a point where you almost get there, then have your partner play like the next hour. That's the loophole to the curse. And then once she's done, you're like, okay, I'm taking the controller back.
As soon as I touch the controller again, cursed.
The PS5, just smoke comes out of it. Just explodes. It's like R2. Just like falls over. Well, I'm sorry. I hope you can play it one day, because Dragon Age Inquisition is amazing.
I'll just have Renee play and live vicariously through her.
You can do Mass Effect though, which you do every year apparently.
Let's go.
Okay, and with that, I think we will get to the news. Here it is. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server. Okay, so the Xbox Developer Direct was the other day. They showed off a lot of footage of upcoming games. So we had Ninja Gaiden 4 from Team Ninja, and then they also dropped Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which I believe is a remastered. It may be a remake. Now that I think about it, I don't remember which one it is. It's on Xbox Game Pass. I haven't played it. I see people having lots of discussions about it. But anyway, so Ninja Gaiden 4 was announced. South of Midnight by Compulsion. We saw lots there. Claire Obscure. Expedition 33 by Sandfall Interactive. Oh my god, my voice is all breaking up. And then Doom the Dark Ages, which looks fucking sick, to put it technically. And other Xbox related ish news, Tom Warren said in his notebook of The Verge that he first heard of an Oblivion remaster in 2024, and at the time Xbox was targeting a spring 2025 release. So we don't really, we have no official word on that. Other games that Xbox we know is working on is Clockwork Revolution by In Exile and Contraband by Avalanche Studios. So yeah, did you see any of the footage or any of this stuff for the developer direct?
I saw a little bit of it. It was going on while I was at work.
Yeah. So I thought it all looked good. I think this was like a big home run for Xbox, but I think that's sort of the bigger point that I think me and a lot of other people are taking away from this is, does Xbox have some kind of momentum? I don't know how well Indiana Jones did, but it was a fantastic game regardless. And then you have Avowed coming out in 2 weeks, so that's going to be another day one Xbox Game Pass game, and that's from what we heard in the previews, it sounded like it was going to be pretty good. And that could be an early game of the year contender. Who knows? Maybe it'll be bad. I don't know. But I hope it's good. The point I'm trying to make here is it seems like Xbox has momentum. And for the first time in a long time, it's like there are a bunch of these games coming out that Xbox may not be the sole publisher of. They may not like own the studio making them or whatever. But on their trailers, there is an Xbox logo bottom left-hand corner. So it's like it is associated with the Xbox brand. And I think that's important. I think it's important that people see the Xbox brand with things that are new and things that are anticipated. If you go into a Target right now and you go into the Xbox section and the games in the game section, the promotional stuff is still Halo Infinite, Yeah. It's like nothing new. Where, PlayStation has new stuff all the time because they have new games coming out all the time, or they have
more current releases.
Yeah, they just have more sort of releases and whatever. So that I think is positive for Xbox. So I think that's going to be the story. One of the stories of 2025 will be, does Xbox sort of find its footing after a few years of not really knowing what to do? And maybe that's, finding its footing. Maybe that's a bit of a exaggeration, because what matters more to these games are a means to an end, I think, if you were to ask Phil Spencer, because what Phil Spencer constantly talks about is getting as many people playing Xbox games as possible, right? This is an Xbox, turning every device into an Xbox. So I think sort of their platform availability is the thing that they are most focused on. But that's where the confusion comes in, because it's like, I'm not sure how that is supposed to work as a business when you don't have, like, if you had console exclusivity, that's fine. But when you have games like Indiana Jones, which is going to PlayStation, which again, I won't complain about. I want it to go to PlayStation, sure. But like, devil's advocate here, if I'm Xbox, don't I want console exclusives? Don't I want some of these games going day one on Game Pass? Does that not cut into their numbers? Or is Microsoft just willing to take the hit to do this like longer form project? I don't know. But and then whatever the hell's going to happen with Switch 2, we have no idea what Xbox is going to do with Switch 2.
Yeah.
So I think that stuff aside, because that stuff's more confusing and I'm not totally sure what to make of it. When it comes to the things that I think are most important, like the games, I think this Xbox has a lot of momentum. And, we said this back when Starfield was about to release. We said this, if Starfield's really good and let's say it's a game of the year contender or whatever, then all of a sudden you've got an Xbox Game of the Year, you've got Phil Spencer at the Game Awards, whatever. The narrative changes. That didn't happen with Starfield, but it did happen with Indiana Jones. It wasn't eligible for Game of the Year awards, but they had a game that was like a legitimately Game of the Year contending game, and they have a ton of games coming out this year as well that again are under the Xbox banner. And the other thing to remember is South of Midnight is $39.99 on Steam, so it's gonna be $40, and Clear Obscure is $49.99. So you have two games that they highlighted, both of which are not premium priced games, right? This mattered a lot with Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 came out, it was $40. It was co-op. And I think
sold like hotcakes.
Yeah, and I think that it being $40 definitely helped with its success and its momentum and picking up players and stuff like that because it wasn't that premium price. Will that happen with South of Midnight? I don't know. You know, that's a single player game, so momentum's a bit different there. But if South of Midnight, you know, gets really good reviews, the art direction is insane. The art direction is I mean, every time I watch gameplay of South of Midnight, it blows my mind. If it gets really good reviews and you're selling it at that cheaper price, does that convince people to buy it who wouldn't normally at a $70 price point? And does that cheaper price steer people away from Game Pass? You know, if you're somebody who South of Midnight comes out, you don't have anything to play. Oh my God, IGN gave it a 9.5. They don't do points anymore, I don't think. Oh my God, all these people giving it rave reviews. I could get Xbox Game Pass or I could get it on Steam. It's $40. That's not that bad. Maybe that diverts business that way. I don't know. But in any case, sorry, I've taken up a lot of the stage here. Do you have any Xbox thoughts?
Xbox.
I think with Xbox and their with them putting a lot of these on Game Pass, I don't think that's going to eat too much of their revenue stream. Because I think what ends up happening is a lot of people use Game Pass for the streaming. I've seen more of that happening on forum posts and
really interesting. Okay.
Discussion. Yeah. And let me tell you, it's garbage. And so people who, struggle through playing with, spotty internet connection or just low bandwidth in general, that they might end up enjoying the game enough to be like, okay, I'm going to cancel my Game Pass and I'm just going to buy the game outright.
Interesting. That would seem like, Xbox, the game streaming, I don't know, has a ways to go. Yeah, I have heard that. So Xbox has claimed that. Xbox has said that buying a game, that Game Pass does not cut in, does not cannibalize on a studio's first week of sales or whatever like that. Xbox has said that. I don't know if other developers have shared their numbers and after releasing on Game Pass. I don't know for sure. That would be interesting to hear. I do know that people will try out games more often on Game Pass because they're free. So it's like so a lot of people will, download a game, play it for a couple hours to see if they'll get into it. So there's that aspect. But I don't think it's crazy, but I'm always skeptical of that because it just doesn't make sense, like Indiana Jones. I paid $20 to play Indiana Jones. I basically rented it because I 2 months of Game Pass, basically, maybe one, I don't remember, but 2 months of Game Pass. It's a $70 game, so that's a loss for Xbox.
I think with more premium titles, well. I don't know the full economics of their Game Pass modeling or pricing system, but I do know that as of February last year, they had 34 million users on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Which $10 a user,
that's
$340 million a year.
Yeah.
and what does the average game sell units wise? 1-2 million.
Yeah. So it could
So
be that it could be just
70 million versus 340 million.
it could be that the wave of people subscribe to Game Pass, and I think also Game Pass has like plateaued as well. I don't think it's rising as much as it did, but yeah, I don't know if the Game Pass numbers off the top of my head, but if that like subsidizes people like me, if that makes sense, right? If
Yeah.
all these like Game Pass subscribers that are just staying on and rolling over, and the Xbox subscription is more expensive on console now. Don't know how that has affected membership, but if those people that are like rolling over month to month, do they subsidize the people like me that buy in for like 2 months to play Indiana Jones or Stalker 2 or what have
Well,
you?
I think it ultimately balances out with people that take the approach you're doing, because you will also buy a game.
Yeah, on
So
Steam.
so they're getting that portion, and you're paying a portion for the subscription. So they're essentially getting the double dip from your bank account.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't know if that crosses over to development studios, right? So like let's look at like the money that I have paid Xbox in the past couple months. Because as long as Avowed doesn't get horrible reviews, I'm going to pick it up on Steam day it releases. Maybe even pre-order it. I don't know. So that's going to be a $70 game.
Don't you dare.
It's going to be $70, right? $70 and some change out of the gate. And Xbox Game Pass is like 11 with change. So altogether, we're looking at $93-ish. I handed Phil Spencer, come Avowed, since Avowed and Indiana Jones over the past 3 months, that will have been $90, right? So, but that $90 is not $90 to Xbox. It's 20 for one game and 70 for another. Like, I assume that impacts how those studios are ran and stuff like that. But yeah, the knowledge of how those economics.
I mean, they're being subsidized by Microsoft. So
yeah, and that's the other thing is I would imagine.
Plus, would you have bought the Indiana Jones game at the $70 price point?
I may have. I mean, I really wanted to play it, but I knew that there were a lot of other games coming out, so I view Game Pass as like an option because like I really want to play Stalker 2.
Let's say that Game Pass isn't an option for you.
Then yeah,
would you have picked?
I don't know. That'd be tough because then I would have had to choose between Indiana Jones in December or Avowed in February. Like, and I may have had time between those two.
So
that's a difficult decision.
Yeah, and so there's a potential for a 0 on one side and a 70 on the other.
Yeah, that's another good point.
Now they're making some money on that 0. They're making a profit there.
Yeah,
you didn't pay the full thing, but $20 is still more than $0.
Yeah, and I imagine Xbox is probably losing something. And I think they know
absolutely.
that. Like, I think Microsoft is losing money with Game Pass, but it's part of a bigger vision. So I think they're okay with that.
And Microsoft's position outside of gaming is so substantial that they can afford to not indefinitely, lose money on this, but for a while, just let the cash flow not be as great as it needs to be, and just build up that user base.
As long as China doesn't develop any more AI that crash the stock market, as long as that doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, you're probably correct. I was thinking about something else with I was saying they probably losing money on Xbox on Game Pass, and I had a thought. But it's gone. It's gone and it's died and it's gone away. Yeah.
Also, we're not factoring in people that only have a PC and don't have an Xbox that now have access to Xbox titles through Game Pass. Not all, some, but still that 0 becomes a finite number. It becomes tangible.
And that's a secondary market that Xbox was more experienced with than PlayStation was, like in its lifetime. But that it only since it went day and day, starting 2017 or whatever, day and date, whatever. Since it did that, whereas bringing every game to PC, it hadn't really like dove into as substantially that it is now. So so you know, it's not like Xbox didn't discover a secondary market like Sony has, but
they just tapped into it.
They tapped into it deeper than they were previously, which I think is also that's also relevant. Okay, we will. You know what? Actually, let me just say, all these games look awesome. I really don't know which one looks the coolest or whatever, but for whatever reason, the one that I reacted to the most was Doom: The Dark Ages. The way they explained how they were doing gameplay, I thought was kind of cool. I skimmed through the video, so I didn't watch like every minute of every presentation. But they kind of talked about how Doom 2016 was run and gun. Doom Eternal was we want you swinging on things and shooting. And then like Doom: The Dark Ages, you're a little bit slower. You have your shield, but you're like a tank that's going to be slower, but more controlled and more, on your toes, which I thought was kind of an interesting way to describe things. So, it made me really excited. I was excited for Doom: The Dark Ages, and then I saw the gameplay and I was like, holy hell, this looks awesome. Okay. Moving on, Cecilia D'Anastasio in Bloomberg. Epic Games' Fortnite-based Roblox-Killer still has a way to go. So a little bit of background here. In 2023, Epic made its Unreal Engine or Unreal Editor available for making games in Fortnite. Now, while Epic says players spent 5.2 billion hours playing games in Fortnite last year, it's still lagging behind Roblox. I'm going to read a graph from the story here. Here it is. While Epic said more than 70% of users play both the company's games and titles made by others, that number has essentially stayed the same from 2023 to 2024. Epic suffers from a cold start problem in which it wants creators to build experiences for new players, but the creators won't build experiences for audiences that don't already exist on the platform, according to video game analytics company Navic. This was an interesting story that I had a lot of thoughts on. D'Anastasio does a good job covering Roblox, which doesn't sound too bad. You're covering Roblox. It's like, it's digital Legos until you read some of her stories. And it's like, holy hell, this is a hellscape. So she goes in the trenches and she covers Roblox.
Digital Legos with pedophiles.
And like Nazis and shit. So, I mean, she does a good job, but I don't envy some of the stories she has to write because they are freaking insane. But, I had a lot of reaction to this. But if you want to share any thoughts on any of this, you can go first.
I just want to say I absolutely hate the X Game Killer. I hate that title so much. Has it ever happened?
Maybe with, I don't know. I'm sure it has. I'm bad at coming up with examples off the top of my head. The other one I know of is Ubisoft wanted a Metal Gear Solid killer, so they made Splinter Cell. And both franchises went on and for a long time. So it didn't kill Metal Gear Solid. If anything, Metal Gear Solid got stronger, but they also created their own really good series. So it's just like, okay.
And then they forgot about it and did nothing with it for the past 10 years.
I don't want to hear about that. Trust me. I know intimately.
I'm just saying, they wanted to make, a Metal Gear Solid killer, and they ended up abandoning it because they don't know how to run a company.
And so was Metal Gear Solid. So irony or something. I don't know.
They killed it, but at what price?
Exactly. So I had this thought because we're all talking about live service bubbles bursting, right? With Sony canceling, 100 million
live service
games. And Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League didn't perform well. So, I mean, we could go on and on. So it's like, okay, the live service thing seems to be slowing down in some context. Like, I think live service mechanics are here to stay, but these big, X-Defiant, these big sort of huge live service bets, is the industry going to steer away? Are we seeing a bit of a a sort of pulling of the reins on something like that? And if so, what's the next big thing? And I think it's something like this. It's these platform games, right? Where players are quote unquote empowered, right, to like make their own thing in a game. And then you have your own storefront, your own browser with games that are created, and they, the algorithm picks them up. You basically have your own Steam, but it's with all games created in this suite that, in this garden, if you will, that you have created yourself. That is not a future that I look to fondly. Actually, that is a feature that I think that I detest. And I detest it for a lot of different reasons. One, it makes me sad that a lot of developers, they are suddenly making games to fit algorithms or making games to fit trends or something. If you're making a game in Roblox, it's like, what is popular? What's the thing that'll go viral on YouTube or TikTok or whatever? Instead of like, what can I create? What can I make that's fun? And in any creative endeavor, I don't know, if you start off with, I'm going to do this because I'm going to, ride coattails or something, it's already kind of, I kind of hate that motivation. Not that it doesn't have its own place, but when everything is trend chasing, or when everything is, how can we do our own version of that? I think that is an issue. And that's something you see a lot. Not necessarily everybody copying themselves, but also like, what's the algorithm doing? How do I retain players? How do I engage players? How do I make a game that forces that, maybe not forces, but like that gets players to interact with it in a way that Roblox Corp wants players to interact with the games I create? And that's something that I really dislike. That is true on a wider scale. I think, like, obviously video games themselves suffer from that as a medium, but when it gets distilled down to one company's platform, now all of a sudden it's like all that under a microscope. And I hate to sound like an old man, but back in the day, Halo 3 customs were just these fun things, right? Like, nobody created them to get famous, nobody created them to make money or anything like that. It was just sort of a thing that you did as a kid. You had fun. You didn't have to worry about trying to market something or trying to have something rise on a browser somewhere. And I think Halo, as my example, benefited from that, because it was just this thing that you would play. It was just this, it was creativity and fun and silliness. And it wasn't about creating something that, worrying if whether or not it had a market or whatever. And I think that changes, obviously it changes how things are created, but also, I don't know, maybe that changes like a young developer's perception of what video games are, or how making games should be approached, where instead of being something crazy and fun and cool, it's, what can I do that's marketable? What can I do that will fit into a certain criteria that Roblox Corp wants or whatever? And yeah, I don't know if that's a future, excuse me, I don't know if that's a future that I like. And it is a future that I think, and if I, to make a prediction, I think this may be the next big thing. Fortnite is chasing Roblox. You have GTA Online, which is already sort of like that, because you could make your own games and do your own silliness. But you can't, as far as I know, you can't get paid for your creations. But would I be surprised if Take-Two started some kind of initiative like that? Of course not, because they already have one of the biggest online, games there is. So could you, with the release of GTA 6, could you do something like that? Maybe. EA talked about this in September. And remember that stupid box video where they were like talking to their generative AI? They're like, make a level, and it made a level full of boxes or whatever. Well, I mean, if you look at it from EA's perspective, you're like, hey, we could do the same thing Roblox does, and then we could also use generative AI. So now it's just, you make slop for this slop store for this huge audience, and you totally cut out any like any real thought behind anything. Maybe I'm being too cynical, but I
Well,
don't find that, I don't see that as cynical. I see that as something that could partially be a future if if these like platform centric games sort of take the place of live service games.
well, shovelware and asset flip games have always existed. And I don't think this is them coming into the mainstream and becoming the future of gaming. I think this is just the corporations going mask off and be like, yeah, we'll totally fucking do shovelware. We don't care. But I don't think it's going to stay because one out of every 100 of these gets attention, if that, if not less.
You talking about games in
Games in the platforms.
Oh, games in yeah. Like most games get no players, but that's not the point. Because yes, you're correct, but it's like you can still build an ecosystem where if you have enough people making things, then yes, the vast majority of people making things are making no money, but it doesn't matter because you have companies set up that are now developing games specifically for your platform. Fortnite has them, Roblox has them. So it's like, and you sell that, right? You sell the thing. You can create things and make money, regardless of the chances of you actually making money. It's this idea that you're going to be joining a community and engaging and interacting, social interaction, and blah blah blah. And really, what it is, like it's a path for exploitation.
But with especially with the Fortnite editor or the Unreal editor, I don't think that has the longevity that they're going to want it to have, because how long can that go on until people just say, screw Fortnite, I'm just now doing this as a game on the side. Like, I'm just doing this. They don't have the retention of the people actually making the games. They just have the tools there, and they're enabling people to make these games, but they can't keep those people there.
Well, no, but I think that's what they're trying to do. That's the whole idea. The whole idea is,
that's what they're trying to do, but they're trying to fence in an antelope. It's just going to hop over the fence eventually.
Okay, but that doesn't mean, I mean, from an executive's perspective, it doesn't mean you don't try, right? The thing is, like,
well, I'm not saying that they're not going to continue doing this. I'm just thinking it's not going to be the future of gaming, because it's, I think, ultimately unsustainable.
Well, yes, you're correct. But the thing is, when I say the future of gaming, I don't necessarily mean that it's a good thing or that it is like monolithic, like it's the only thing that's going to take over the industry. But I think, like with live services, where you had so many live service games launch, you had so many companies embrace sort of live service initiatives, and all came crumbling down, which everybody could see. And I think partially executives knew that too, but they didn't care, because executives aren't in it for long-term gains and long-term sustainability. They're in it to make their money and jump out of the airplane before it hits a mountain. So it's like, that makes sense from their perspective, as stupid and inane and idiotic as it is. So it's like, okay, if they're looking around and they're saying, what's the next way we can do? What's the next thing we can do to sell to investors that this is the next initiative that's going to make money? And right now, the biggest game in the world might be Roblox, right? You could argue maybe Call of Duty, EA Sports FC, probably. But anyway, Roblox is definitely up there, right? And it's because of the type of game that is. It's this platform game where people come in, build their own games, they create content from it. There's an entire ecosystem based around it. Fortnite wants to copy that. So it's like, to me, it makes sense that other AAA companies, especially with the advent of generative AI, would try to jump onto that. It's a copycat industry, would try to jump there too. Now, regardless of whether or not
ultimately they're too late.
I mean, maybe,
because
I don't know. Yeah, to get
everyone got into the live service industry roughly around the same time, and people people like Sony tried extending it out past that, and they've axed all of them. Roblox has been that game since time immemorial.
Yeah.
And now they have to fight that uphill battle to get on par with Roblox.
Yeah, and that's partially what the story is about. Is because Fortnite is also its own game, right? So it's like, how do you? So it's like they want to incentivize people to join to like launch Fortnite and then make stuff from it rather than playing it. So there's the trouble there. Where Roblox, it is like the game is the make it, it's Roblox is Legos. Where Fortnite is like you buy it, it comes with some Legos and a board game. So it's like it's but to me it makes sense that logical inconsistency, that dissonance makes sense because again, executives they're irrational beings. It's quick fixes, it's short term, it's trend chasing, like none of it's long-term sustainability. So all those square pegs and round holes, all that stuff makes sense from their perspective because they are stupid. So it's like, anyway, but I think this is a possible, if live service stuff is kind of going away, if companies see that looter shooters and things like that kind of aren't working out, I do wonder if the next big trend or the next trend coming up isn't the sort of user generated game like Roblox.
And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to be like, this is the start of the end of it. Not the end of like Roblox, but the start of the end of companies trying to get into that. Because if you were to describe a platform style game, like a game where you make games, Roblox is that game. So people will say a Roblox-like game.
Yeah.
It's like trying to start a search engine now. It's going to be like Google. If you're going to say to Google something, Roblox has already cornered that market.
Okay.
I don't think there's enough there for other companies to get in on it. And like here we have some proof. Fortnite started to do this, and what happened? Nothing really.
Yeah, I think we're kind of I think we agree because we're talking about two distinctions here. There's the distinction of whether or not it could happen mathematically, which I think like I agree with you that no, and the distinction of whether or not it's going to happen. So it's the same thing with like generative AI. Like, can generative AI make a game? No, it can't. Does that mean EA won't try making a game with generative AI? No, because they don't care about the quality. If you're an executive and you just want to cut out labor and make the cheapest shit possible, generative AI is a great tool for you. So it's like, so it is making a game, but when we say generative AI can't make a game, the words we're not saying in that sentence are can't make a playable game that people should make, So it's like, that's something that we infer. So it's like, yes, I agree. Just like with XDefiant, it's like you're trying to take on this behemoth. It's not going to work, partially because getting people to move is difficult over to like a new thing. But that doesn't mean that there won't be attempts, whether or not mathematically or logistically it can actually happen. And I just think it's because Andrew Wilson could say, look, investors, we're doing a Roblox thing. That means we're going to be as rich as Roblox. and all the investors clap their hands and they get fed bottles and they get their diaper changed and they get put down for a nap. And then, then 3 years later, it comes crashing down and they're on to whatever the next thing they're going to do is. Okay. That's enough there. I think unless you wanted to, there's anything you want to say.
We should also just burn down Roblox.
I would mostly agree with that. Yeah, more layoffs at Ubisoft today. That sucks. Man, there is a lot riding on Assassin's Creed Shadows, and
we should also, as a society, fire Yves Guillemot.
We should fire Yves Guillemot. Yes, we should do that, and we should find a way to keep people in jobs in the games industry because it's just. Oh, that sucks. And it just sucks that I think a lot of
You know how you do that? You unionize.
And it just sucks that a lot of that so many maybe I'm overreacting, but it just seems like if this Assassin's Creed Shadows doesn't go well, people are going to lose their jobs, and that's just going to suck. That's just going to suck. So, and I think it's got to be partially due to mismanagement.
Oh, it's wholly
I
mismanagement.
don't know. But anyway, okay. You didn't have tidbits, did you?
No.
Okay, I didn't have tidbits either. Rich is not here, so he will be executed for not doing tidbits.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. Follow us. Don't go to Twitter and Facebook. No, I still haven't cut that out. Go to youtube.com/gaming discourse, patreon.com/the gaming discourse. Check out my video, Best Gaming Journalism 2024.
Follow us on Blue Sky.
Go to Blue Sky. Check us out there. I retweet or repost something every now and then. I don't know. And then, Eternal Strands review coming up soon. We'll see you next week.
Bye.